For many years, Israel was split into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was referred to as Israel and was made up of 10 tribes. The southern kingdom had 2 tribes and was called Judah. The northern kingdom, or Israel, rebelled against God and refused to follow his commandments, so God lifted his hand of protection over them. They soon fell to the powerful Assyrian army and were carried away into captivity. The southern kingdom, or Judah, was ruled by kings who also encouraged the Israelites to rebel against God. They worshipped the pagan gods and idols of the surrounding nations instead of God. In his anger, God no longer protected them from their enemies. The Babylonians attacked Judah and carried the king and his family, Judah's highest nobles, and the very best and educated young men into captivity to Babylon. The Babylonian king, Nebuchadnezzar, then ordered all of Judah's brightest young men to be taught the language and literature of the Babylonians for 3 years. After this time, the young men of Judah would be ready to serve and work for King Nebuchadnezzar. Among these young men of Judah, 4 men stood out from the rest: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They were soon given Babylonian names. Daniel's name became Belteshazzar, Hananiah became Shadrach, Mishael became Meshach, and Azariah became Abednego. King Nebuchadnezzar ordered that these young men from Judah eat the best foods and drink the choice wine from his own table. Even though this was a great honor, Daniel did not want to defile himself and eat foods forbidden by God. So Daniel went to the chief official and requested that he and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be allowed to follow God's rules and customs for food. This frightened the official, and he said, "The king has assigned you this special food and drink, and what will he do to me if you and your friends begin to look weak and worse than the other men? He will have my head." But Daniel answered, "Let's take a test. Serve me, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, some vegetables and water for 10 days. Then compare our appearance to that of the men who eat the rich food from the king's table. Then you can make your decision." The official agreed, and 10 days later came back to check on all the men. To his amazement, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego looked healthier than the other men who had eaten the royal food. From that time on, they were allowed to follow their own diet in order to honor God. At the end of the time set by the king to teach the men the Babylonian language and literature, the chief official brought Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego before King Nebuchadnezzar. The king found that they had far more knowledge and wisdom than any of the other men, so they entered the king's personal service. Daniel was also able to interpret visions and dreams. This would bring great blessing to Daniel and all the wise men in the days ahead. King Nebuchadnezzar began having dreams that troubled his mind, and he could not sleep. The king called for his magicians and astrologers and said, "I had a dream that troubles me, and I want you to tell me what it means." The astrologer said, "O king, tell us your dream, and we will be happy to interpret it for you." The king answered, "I want you to tell me the dream and its interpretation, and if you do not, then I will have you all killed. But if you are able to tell me my dream and interpret it, then you will receive gifts, rewards, and great honor." This greatly troubled the magicians and astrologers, and they replied, "There is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks." This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered all the wise men of Babylon to be executed at once. When the king's guards came to take Daniel and his friends to be executed, Daniel spoke to him with great wisdom. As soon as Daniel found out why the king had made such a terrible decree, he bravely went before the king and asked for extra time so that he might tell the king his dream and interpret it for him. The king agreed, and Daniel returned to his house. He explained the matter to his 3 wise friends, and they immediately began to pray to God for mercy and understanding in interpreting the king's dream. During the night, God revealed the mystery of the dream to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised God and said, Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. He gives wisdom and knowledge to the wise. He reveals deep and hidden things. You have made known to me what we have asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king. The next morning, Daniel went to the captain of the king's bodyguard and said, "Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will tell him his dream and interpret it for him." Daniel was brought before the king, and the king asked, "Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it as well?" Daniel replied, "There is no wise man, astrologer, or magician on this earth that can tell you the mysteries of your dream. But there is a God in heaven who reveals all mysteries. As for me, this was revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than other men, but in order that you will understand the interpretation, and he will show you what will happen in the days to come. In your dream, O king, there stood before you an enormous and dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold. Its chest and arms were silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs were iron, and the feet were made partly of iron and partly of clay. Suddenly, a rock was cut out without human hands and smashed the feet made of iron and clay. While you watched, the rock struck the rest of the statue and turned it into dust that was blown away by the wind without a trace. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. That was your dream, and now we will interpret it. You are a king of kings, and the God of heaven has given you a kingdom with power, strength, and glory. You rule over people, beasts of the field, and birds of the air. Therefore, you are the head of gold. After you, another kingdom will rise that will not be as strong as yours. Then, a third kingdom of bronze will rule over all the earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron. Just like iron crushes and breaks all things, this kingdom will crush and break all other kingdoms. The feet of the statue that you saw, made partly of iron and partly of clay, represents a divided kingdom. This kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. Even as iron does not mix with clay, the people will not mix and will not be united. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a new kingdom, and it will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end. But the kingdom of God will endure forever. So now you know that the rock cut out by hands that are not human broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. Our great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. When Daniel finished, King Nebuchadnezzar fell before Daniel in great honor. The king said to Daniel, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries." Then King Nebuchadnezzar promoted Daniel to ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all the wise men. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel served at the royal court.